OK, let's go to the Gold Cup right now. Of course, Galopin Des Champs. We're talking about staying horses, but of course, really what we're talking about is horses that probably will end up in the Gold Cup, or I guess the King George, and that might be crucial as far as an animal like Shishkin is concerned, because in some ways, Mick, if we're talking about staying chasers, Shishkin is now right up there, isn't he?
Well, the way he won at Liverpool, you'd have to say yes. And, you know, I kept thinking, well, he jumps, you see him, if he goes and shifts one way, he shifts markedly left-handed and puts himself in trouble sometimes going that way. But then I watched the Ascot race again, where he won by 16 lengths. And he beat a horse rated 162, and he beat Fakir Dudaries rated 164, and he beat them senseless. You look at his record at Kempton, he's run at Kempton 4 times, he's won 4 times, and arguably put up some of his best performances around there. So you have to say, looking at the bare facts, his form around Kempton is probably better than anywhere else. There's a lot of things and a lot of reasons to think that he could be a major player in that race in the King George. Yeah. You know, he's definitely a horse for me that you've got Brave Man's Game, who won the race last year. That was, I think, one of his best performances alongside his second in the Gold Cup. And Paul Nicholls will be keen to get him back to do that again. But I definitely think Shishkin is a player in a race like the King George.
So Brave Man's Game and Shishkin are both 10-1 for the Gold Cup. Currently, the best price I can find for Brave Man's Game in the King George is 2-1, and Shishkin is 5-1.
Yeah.
Now, Shishkin's a fair each-way bet for the King George, isn't he?
Well, definitely. You know, with all those factors taken into account, he's definitely a player. Because you might have a small field again. You might only have 7 runners.
Yeah.
Who knows? I think he's definitely a player.
There are some forgotten horses as well. When I say forgotten horses, I think one forgotten horse, because he was injured for a lot of last season. I know the owner actually was slightly disappointed that people almost sort of forgot about his horse, L'Empresse. Whenever there's mud flying, you wouldn't ignore him.
I'll tell you, I think at the prices at the minute, like, he's one of the most interesting ones for the Gold Cup, because he has become a forgotten horse, but you have to remember what he did, you know, on his best days. Like, he was very good in the Brown Advisory, beating a High Seigneur. And, like, I can't get out of my head how well he was running in the King George last year. Like, when everything was going wrong, really. Like, I don't think he really wants to go that way around. And he was jumping out to his left, like, badly the whole way. And he was still bang in there with Brave Man's Game. Like, I think Brave Man's Game would have won, probably by a few lengths, but considering all that went wrong, like, L'Empresse was in there boxing for right up until the point where he made his exit, and I think Cheltenham suits him way better. And, like, he's still low mileage. We've only seen him 8 times over fences. He's 8 rising 9. Like, I'd be really interested to see him back and to see where he slots in, because I wouldn't be surprised at all if he ends up being one of the main, certainly British trained contenders for the race.
And what do we make of Ahoy Seigneur? Because he's a massive price for the Gold Cup. When he came down, there were a few people who were saying he was going as well as anything for that race. He's not even priced up going right-handed round for the King George. He probably won't go there. But, I mean, there's just already signs very much early in this jump season that Scoo, Lucinda Russell and all the other Scudamores that are now involved, the army of Scudamores, you get the feeling this is a stable that's going to have an amazing season, I have a feeling.
Yeah, but he looks like he's a very, very good horse round Aintree, doesn't he, a High Seigneur? Is he
not many anti-post prices on the Aintree grade.
Yeah, but is he going to win a Gold Cup? Like, if somebody said to you, do you want to back him to win a Gold Cup, would you want to back him?
I'll tell you what,
do you know, Fitzy,
Scoo's watching
really
this and saying yes.
Ride this horse. I really want to see him ride the horse aggressively. You know, I fancied him in the King George last year, and I was just disappointed with the way he was ridden. I think he's a horse that maybe doesn't have a great brain when it comes to jumping, and I think he's at his best when he's just ridden aggressively, and he doesn't have to think about it. He's just sent. I think that's when he jumps his best. I thought he was running a super race under that sort of ride in the Gold Cup until he had a bit of a blip and came down. He ran a storming race at Aintree when his jumping maybe wasn't quite as good. But like there's all the abilities in there. Like you look at bits and pieces of his form and they read so well. Like it puts him in amongst them all. But he's one of those he can't afford to have a mental blip, because when he does, it tends to cost him. But he's the type of horse that has the ability to pop up in any of those big days and run a blinder.
I've compared Ahoy Senor with Scoo, or to Scoo, with Carville's Hill back in the day, who of course got beat in the Gold Cup. And I don't think Scoo really likes the comparison, and it's probably not a fair one, because Carville's Hill probably had issues and was more brilliant than Ahoy Senor when he was brilliant. But having said that, for the same reason you've just said, Kevin, it doesn't really... See, with horses, it doesn't really matter whether they've got issues or whether they've got mental problems. If there is something stopping them doing what they naturally can do, that is all that matters. And for that reason, I do think there's a little bit of a comparison in that they're both highly talented, but you just wonder on occasions whether they will prevent themselves from fulfilling their potential.
I actually think that their other horse in there, Corrick Rambler, the horse who won the National,
for the Gold Cup rather than the King George.
I could see him running a race in a Gold Cup, especially in a big field, because he's an amazing horse. Like, when you watch that Ultimate that he won last year and he beat Fast or Slow, you cannot believe how well he was going. And he weaved his way through, and we've seen it before, Kevin. Races like the Gold Cup, where it's a huge packing field. Remember the year that Santini nearly won against Album Photo?
Yeah.
If you imagine that kind of race...
The great Santini.
Yeah, and you see Corrick Rambler weaving his way through. When he gets to the back of the last on that new course, they've gone hard. He'll be tagging onto them and he'll be finishing his race off really well. He's the horse that I would think of the two Lucinda Russell horses that I would want to back at a big price.
But
and we don't have a clue how good he is either, because he has such a notable tendency to idle, and I know he's 9 rising 10, but he's low mileage again. Like, he's only had 10 runs over fences. They've really minded him the last couple of seasons. I'd be with you. I think he could win the National again, but he could certainly go and compete in the Gold Cup on the way, because you know yourself, Mick, like if he runs the Gold Cup, he'll be given a lovely no pressure type of ride, and you know what he's capable of doing. He could creep away there and really shake them up. So I'd be thinking similar lines to you now.
The only problem slightly for me, lads, is that he's not that big a price.
He's 20 to 1.
20 to 1. You kind of think he'd be 100 to 1 or something, and he's not. He's outside of the top two, he's kind of 4th or 5th favourite sort of thing. But I agree with you. I wonder. I'd love to know if Scoo was put. I mean, he loves Corrick, so he's probably not going to be the right person to ask. But if he said who was the naturally more talented, Ahoy Senor or Corrick Rambler, I think they'd choose Ahoy Senor.
Yeah, I think they would. But what you've got to remember is, look at Corrick Rambler's form. Second half of the season is the time when he really gets going. He got beaten a couple of times last year, and you were looking at him going, really? Ugh. But then you watch him in the second half of the season, he's a different horse.
Yeah. Is it you're going to laugh at me now. We're going to go to the hurdlers, and this horse kind of mixer. Do we forget about Monkfish completely? Because if you just take last season as a comeback season and almost ignore what he did, there was a time when Monkfish was just about favourite for the Gold Cup the following year. Is there any hope for the Monk?
I don't know. You can text Rich Ritchie and ask him now. But if
ask him. Go on.
Oh, look at you, Bitter.
If he were mine, like I train him for the stairs hurdle. That's where they brought him back last season.
I'll leave him a voice message. Hold on.
Yeah,
Hi, Rich. Hold on, Kev. Hold on, Rich. We're right in the middle of the show. I've just had, abuse from Blake and Mick Fitzgerald suggesting Monkfish could return to his best. If there's any chance you can send me a voice note back telling me what you think of their comments and whether Monkfish can return to his great days, that would be much appreciated. I apologise for the language used by the boys. Right, we'll see if he replies. But he is online. Yeah. Manila Indo, are we just forgetting about him?
I think he'd be interesting in a stairs hurdle myself.
Yeah.
And knowing Willie, it might just suit him to do that because he'd often say himself it's easier to keep them sound over hurdles. And this fella's clearly has had a fair few problems. And Willie isn't short on Gold Cup ammunition. And we've hardly mentioned Galopin Des Champs, the short price fan for the race.
I know. Well,
yeah, but he's when you're looking at this division, we kind of know he's exciting, don't we?
But the worry is, and am I wrong in thinking, we've seen it before, sometimes horses that win Gold Cups, they go to the place that they never recover from, and that's the obvious worry, with horses like that. Like Might Bite, when he got beat in the Gold Cup, he never looked the same horse afterwards. With this horse, will he be as good? Like him and Brave Man's Game both had hard races at Cheltenham, and then they were beaten by Faster Slow, who had run in the Ultimate a time previously and finished second. Are we taking that as a blip, Kevin, or do you think, well, look, we've got to take the horse on face value and think he's going to bounce back and be as good as he was when he bolted up at Leopardstown?
Yeah, look. I think I don't want to sound disrespectful to Faster Slow because I think he is a very good horse, but I don't think that was Galopin Des Champs on the day. I was so impressed with his campaign last season because really starting the season on this show, I reckon I might have said that I believe if they asked him to, he could win the Queen Mother Champion Chase. I think he has that set of attributes, and the challenge they were going to have was to get him to relax and be sensible and efficient enough to do what he can do in a Gold Cup, and he did that. When they stepped him up in trip, he adapted really well. Paul Townend rode him with so much bravery in the way that they did ride him, and he delivered in the Gold Cup and was really good. And the two times we saw him, the first two times we saw him overstaying trips over fences, it was characterized by how strong he was up the run in. So you watch him in the Gold Cup and you're like, oh yeah, if you stay sound, you're just going to keep doing that. And then he goes to Punchestown and gets beat. Race horses, they'll let you down just when you believe in them. But do I think he's still massively the one to beat in the division? Yeah, because we talked about brilliance with Constitution Hill. For me, Galopin Des Champs has shown brilliance, on a number of occasions, and he showed in the Gold Cup that he can do it. In an extreme, in an environment where stamina is really at a premium. So I wouldn't be losing faith in him, and I can't wait to see him back out.
Just to finally on this category give two or three more horses a mention, because there'll be people shouting at the screen. Hewick, I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise if he's somewhere in the mix come Cheltenham and he'll win races. Noble Yates, if you watch his Gold Cup run, it was extraordinary. He was running on strongly. If it was really testing in the Gold Cup, who knows what he could do. And one horse that I've no idea how he's going to get on over the months ahead, but My Drogo, once upon a time, did look like one of the most exciting youngsters out there. It will be interesting to see what he does at some point during the jump season as well. So there are a few in the mix who could yet pop up. I think it's a better division perhaps than people think. And Brave Man's Game, just finally on this actually, can I just throw one question at you? Brave Man's Game, because as of yet, Nichols hasn't texted any abuse, but if he's watching, he will at some point if we say something. Do we think he stays the Gold Cup trip or not? Kevin Blake, just a yes or no, no explanation. Brave Man's Game, does he stay the Gold Cup trip, or is Nichols running him in the wrong race at Cheltenham? Yes or no?
He stays the trip.
OK, yes, it was the answer then. Some things you think he's considered intelligent. Fitzy, you'll know the answer.
I know,
to
but
this.
he's a horse that's getting better.
Your final point was, did he run him in the wrong race? And if I said yes, he'd say, oh, he ran him in the wrong race, which is exactly the opposite of what I was saying. So come on, Matt, pose your questions correctly, and I'll give you a one-word answer.
It's Fitzy's turn, Kevin. Thank you for your contribution, Fitzy.
Oh, look, I think he stayed, but I actually think he'll stay better this year, because this is a horse who, when he ran at Cheltenham in the novice hurdle, I was down at the start, and I saw him. He literally melted in front of my eyes. He was shaking. The horse got himself very upset, and he is a little bit of a warrior. When he ran into Charlie Hall this year, we saw him walking into the pre-parade ring. He was shaking, he was sweating. He's that type of horse. I think if he gets better and better and better and grows up a little bit more, he has a better chance of turning the form round. But it was you need more than one horse to have a great race. And we needed him to make that a great win for Galopin Des Champs last year. Down to the last, it was still all to play for. And he only up the running he gave way.
Okay, do we want
Matt,
to...
What about Jerry Colomb? What about Jerry Colomb?
We're moving on now, Kev. Thanks.
No, I think we've got to give him credit.
Really?
I think if he's going to win a big race like that, the staying trip of the Gold Cup really will bring it out in him.
He's not going to win the Gold Cup, is he?
I think if he's going to win a big race at Cheltenham, he'll have a chance in the Gold Cup because he's a very strong stayer.
Do we want to find out whether Rich thinks that Monkfish can win? Here we go. I don't know what he's called us, but he's just put a little...
This?
Whatever he said at the end, he's just bet. He says, I meant presenters. So whatever he said about us, here we go. Hold on. I've got to this out.
Get the bleep.
Hold on, let's start this again. Here we go.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Fitzy. I think we should start testing producers for their samples, given some of those comments. Crikey. I think that, look, he was really good his first run last year. Second run was probably too quick. We'll try. He's a wonderful horse. We've given him plenty of time. It's too early in the season to say, but, we're going to give it a go. But it remains to be seen. It's a big ask, but if anybody can do it, when it can do it. Hope you're having a great time, and good luck with the show.
Thanks, Rich.
Thanks very much. And what a good idea from Rich. You should have both been tested. Oh, you meant presenters. Yes, you should have been tested before this show. And we could have had the test results halfway through. Especially you, Blakey.
It's just a pity.
Right.
Can we get Kevin's thing on Jerry Colomb? Come on, Kevin, we want to hear about you, Jerry Colomb.
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah, I agree. Stays really, really well. I just wondered how much did he enjoy Cheltenham last year? Like he seemed to get a bit lost coming down the hill, and maybe he just got outpaced. But I don't know. Like he's plenty of form over shorter. I think anyone that backed him now would have came away from that headbutt in the wall and feeling that he probably should have won the race. And I think if you ran it a few, if you replayed it a few times, I suspect he would have won a few times. But I think the extra distance, the Gold Cup's going to suit him. Looking forward to seeing how he progresses. Like, could he end up in a Grand National one day? I wouldn't be surprised at all. Even though he's obviously very highly rated now, but I do like him, and I wouldn't like to be underestimating him like Matthew is.